I was out nice and early this morning on sunrise. I found this nice ledge on Google Maps and I thought it'd be a good spot to go on the low tide. I was using the Z-Man Streaks 4-inch curly tails. This is the one that I found in the bargain bin in the last video. I've got a 1/8 1/0 hook on it, I believe, or jig head. I was out pretty early in the morning and it was pretty much the only window I had for the day. The conditions were probably going to be better later in the day when the tide was running, so this is right at the bottom of the tide. That's why I thought I'd go to this ledge and hop the plastic off the ledge there. My thought to go to this spot is that when bait is fleeing off the flats, that the flathead would be ambushing them as they come off the ledge. A couple of days before this video there was actually quite a lot of rain, so even though it was the bottom of the tide, the water level was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. Having said that, I could still see some silver flashes along that ledge there. I think if I had been using a few smaller plastics I would have got a brim or two, just because I could see them cruising along. I've got the polarized sunny, so even in these overcast conditions you can still see the silver flashes. I was using my Stratex CI4, it's 2500, and I've got 4-pound braid on and 10-pound leader. When I'm using soft plastics, the 4-pound is actually really helpful to help distinguish between those little bites from blowfish which absolutely plague the Swan River. This time of year it's not too bad, and particularly because it's the first thing in the morning and a bit colder, they're not as prevalent, but when it gets a bit hotter they'll swamp and smash your plastics pretty badly. So having a lighter line allows you to feel those little bites and you can move your plastic away. The larger curl-tail lures like I'm using today are probably a little bit better for when the blowies are bad as well, because they'll just take little chunks out of the tail but the action will still be there. If you're using a paddle tail and they nip off the end of the tail, the action of the lure is completely changed. After persisting at this ledge for an hour and a half or so, I decided to move on. I just went down the road to another spot that I know. This area I'm just casting over a little bit of a weed bed which is produced for me in the past. Just a slow retrieve with a few little hops. It's really shallow, so the hops I'm doing are only small little actions from the rod. I'm also using an 8'6" rod, so tiny little flick will lift it 10-20 centimeters, and when it's only in about 30 centimeters 40 centimeters of water you don't want to rip the lure out of the water too much. Lovely hook up. It'd been a long morning, so it's a great feeling. The 1/0 jig head's pretty sturdy and I don't have the heaviest drag because I'm using 4-pound line, so I'm pretty confident that I've got a good hook set up. So I'm just holding the rod up a little bit higher, keeping the leader away from its gill rakers and slowly bringing it in. When you're using the trebles you can sometimes get a little bit more nervous just because they're a lot easier for them to shake out or the hooks bend. Beautiful hook up there. This fish was in great condition and it had some awesome fillets that came off it. These beautiful coloured fillets would be perfect just to chuck straight into a pan right now, but I'm going to do something a little bit different and make some flathead dumplings. I saw a Maggie Beer recipe once where they made a flathead mousse and used that in a different recipe. I thought it would do really well for a dumpling as well. So I just chopped up the flathead, blitzed it with a little bit of sunflower oil. Then I'm going to mix it with some different fillings. So I've got some Chinese spinach, some coriander and some Chinese chives as well. So I'll dice it up nicely, add that to the flathead, then I'll add some rice wine vinegar, few drops of sesame oil, or a splash. Some garlic powder. I didn't use real garlic here just because the chives are pretty hectic. And some white pepper, pretty important. Splash of soy sauce, give it a good mix, let it sit for about 20 minutes. Also did some pork dumplings because the wife doesn't eat any river fish. Then I got some store-bought dumpling wrappers, let them defrost on the bench for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and started plating. You can get, things online or from Kmart to do this for you if you want as well. I'm no wizard when it comes to this, but as long as they're close enough to chuck in the steamer. So I'll get a wrapper, put a little bit in the middle. You probably want to go less is more sometimes when it comes to making dumplings. Probably put a little bit too much in this one. Then I'll wet the edges. I've just got a little bowl of water next to me to do that. Close it up and then pleat. Probably take 1 or 2 to get it right. Once you get in a river, they're pretty easy to make. Chucked them in the steamer for about 5 to 6 minutes. Beautiful. These were so delicious. The wife missed out because these were about 10 times better than the pork ones. Truly a really good recipe. If you don't like dumplings, even just using that mixture and frying it up as little fish cakes would be fantastic as well. Thanks again for watching. Feel free to ask any questions below.